Hello, friends. A cemetery is a place where people go to reflect and gain a sense of solemnity. The silence and desolation of cemeteries often make people apprehensive about visiting even during daylight hours. However, today we are going to discuss some shameful cemeteries where women used to sell their bodies for meager prices in exchange for worldly gains. Friends, these immoral activities did not take place anywhere else but within empty mausoleums. What was the reason that these sinful women chose cemeteries, and where were these disgraceful cemeteries located? All these questions will be answered in our video today. The business of selling one's body in exchange for money is considered one of the oldest professions in the world. While women from every society have been associated with this profession to some extent, the level to which this trade reached its zenith and stability within the Roman Empire is unparalleled in any other civilization. The Roman Empire had imposed heavy taxes on these prostitutes, which added significantly to the royal treasury. Prostitution had reached such an extent in Roman society that it was prevalent in every aspect of daily life. In this society, sacred places, including cemeteries, were free from sins like prostitution and other horrifying and silent places. In ancient Rome, there were thousands of such women who had registered themselves at the government level as prostitutes. All these women were bound to pay 1/3 of their earnings to the Roman government. Among these prostitutes, there were no slave girls or concubines. Instead, they were free Roman women who engaged in this profession either out of their own free will or were forced into it by their fathers, brothers, or husbands due to the temptation of wealth. These women had various levels among them. At the top tier were the women whose connections were with noble families and who only served the royal families and government officials. While women of the second category were found in Roman baths and sacred places. In addition, women of the third category roamed the markets, brothels, and streets. They dyed their hair with a specific color, and their clothing and footwear were different from those of ordinary Roman women. Therefore, those looking for their services could easily identify them. This was a lucrative, cheap, and relatively legal way to obtain sexual pleasure. One common aspect among all these women was that they were obliged to give 1/3 of their earnings to the Roman government. If they didn't comply, Roman soldiers would treat them brutally. After deducting expenses for food, accommodation, and clothing, the third category of these women still had so much left that most women from the lower classes couldn't afford. Therefore, these women, hidden from public view, chose cemeteries as their place of business. They would write down their rates on tombstones and wait for clients. Gravediggers and other passers-by began to take advantage of these women. What's peculiar is that these women involved in prostitution in cemeteries became so successful that this practice spread far and wide in the Roman Empire. The women who lived here would charge during the day, making the lives of those who paid them a miserable existence, while at night, the business of selling their chastity thrived. Prostitution in cemeteries didn't require the women to register their names with the Roman government, nor did they have to pay a hefty tax from their limited earnings. This business flourished so much in cemeteries due to the burial of dead bodies that it became more famous than other illegal activities. The Roman army often raided these underground operations, but they couldn't find any evidence except for the numbers written on tombstones. Prostitution in cemeteries became so popular in Europe that it became a permanent part of society. Even after the end of the Roman Empire, it continued for centuries. During the 14th century, when the bubonic plague spread across Europe, the Christian Pope declared God's wrath upon those involved in this practice in cemeteries and announced the excommunication of all men and women engaged in this sinful activity. Despite this action by the Christian Pope, stories of such incidents in cemeteries continue to be heard in Europe even today. For more information on this topic, please do a Google search, where you will find various articles with ease.